everyone, and welcome to Ops Oops Origami. Sorry we're a little bit late tonight. We have people on the road, we had people with audio issues, so this is what happens. But that's what happens when you have a live show. Maybe if we managed this like a proper project, this wouldn't happen. But,
Touche,
anyways,
touche.
yeah. So, yeah, we've talked about projects and project management a lot of times, and for some reason, I never thought to bring in the best project manager I know, Santiago Speranza. That PMP, that actually stands for pimp.
That's right.
So
The I is
don't get it
silent.
twisted.
The I is
Yes.
silent.
So, Santi, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Vukic. I might add the favorite Vukic of them all in my book. But no, thank you for having me. I'm Santiago Esperanza, Santi for short. I've actually been in project management for about 15 years now, and I decided to take that crazy leap into the industry after I couldn't figure out why I hated marketing, why I didn't want to do IT, and why I was always trying to organize people's houses, businesses, operations, anything like that. And about 10 years ago, I decided to make it official, get my PMP certification, and I've over the last decade built a $500 million portfolio for a large water meter manufacturer. And now I just recently joined the water consulting business, so much better side of the business. So happy to be here and talk shop with you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us. Chris, you want to say a word while you're on the road? Are you going to
Word.
concentrate? Word.
No, it's an interesting topic, right? Like, as IT people, I think some of us think like, oh man, project management. But man, if I don't have to talk to that guy, it's a good day. And on the other hand, like, big projects live or die with good project management. So I think it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. W2K?
Yeah, you know, uh, I think good project management probably requires good staffing underneath them. I mean, you ain't gonna have good projects done if you don't have good staff, and consequently, you know, good good folks are uh, uh, energized and pushed forward by good folks who can get them what they need, kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and getting you what you need is one of the biggest things from my perspective. I mean, I never really understood what the role of a project manager was in IT until I had some big projects that actually had them, because
Mhm.
previously it was just a hope and a prayer, and I'm just gonna power through this and probably make it through the other side. But after actually doing some that were properly project management, it was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Because a good project manager does make your life a lot easier. They're there to, well, keep everything on track and
Mhm.
contact people and just do all that stuff that us as IT people,
We don't want to do
we're, we're
that.
usually not very good at it. Or even if we are good at it, we've got other stuff to do. We have the actual, like, work, the meat and potatoes of the actual projects to get accomplished.
Yeah,
So to
like
have
I don't want
somebody
to
that can
update
do all that,
leaders.
what's that?
I don't want to update leaders.
Right,
No.
right. Well, and that's the biggest problem, right? I mean, the key to project management is the fact that when you're starting a project or you're leading a project, you have to realize those resources working with you, they might not report to you. Very likely, they don't report to you. They have day jobs, and that's what a lot of people forget. That they're working on this project. It might be the project manager's baby to get this project off the road, get it accomplished, whatever it may be, an IT project, an operations focused project. But all those people that are working on your project, they have other things to do. They have other things that they're worried about that they have to get back to and finish up. So it really is just as much as about delivering on the project itself is getting those people engaged to want to work with you and want to provide those results.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you honestly, you've probably seen more major projects than all of us combined, like at your previous. Because I mean, you did
I,
some very, very,
I
very large projects. I mean,
yeah, largest contract to date that I've managed was $66 million. That was fun.
yeah, that's probably bigger than the IT budget of every place I've ever worked for the entirety of time that I've worked for them.
It wasn't my budget. Don't get me wrong. It
Well,
was fun.
I know.
It
I'm
was
just
fun to
saying. Yeah, it was a
say
$66 million project.
It's like, oh,
Yeah,
no
that's
big deal, as you're shivering in the corner, just like, oh my god, I better not mess this up,
yeah. So what are the biggest things that you see that can kind of derail a project, or what are like actually a better first question going into a project? What are like maybe red flags that maybe this isn't going to go so smooth and I'm going to have to work really hard on this one? Have you ever really seen that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, I actually, not to talk about anything current, so we'll just talk about past tense, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely the biggest thing. It really boils down to the people and the engagement of people working on a project, right? So if you're looking at the human factor side of things, what you would call your project stakeholders, so both your internal stakeholders and your external stakeholders, if you don't have people's buy-in to support whatever you're trying to achieve, it doesn't matter how hard you try, it doesn't matter how many hours you work, it doesn't matter how many people you put on it, you're going to fail. Just
Oh, yeah.
like it or not, it's just never, it might get off the ground, it might be bumpy, but it's never going to be delivered properly. On the other side of things, what I would see a lot is over promising and under delivering. So you
Mm.
have someone that's disengaged with the project, that doesn't really know what the heck they're talking about, and saying to a customer typically, oh yeah, we can do that. And that's usually your sales or your marketing departments that are just going to agree to it. And then we work with the IT team, or you work with the operations team, try to, make this a reality. And you're like, oh yeah, they told me it'd be done in 3 months. Yeah, well, integration is going to take like 6 months. And so yeah, we would see that a lot. So.
Yeah, I've always subscribed to the Scotty school of engineering, under promise and over deliver.
Of course.
Be generous with your timelines. Well, I mean that was his famous thing, but I mean, if it's honestly going to take say 3 weeks to do something, don't say you're going to do it in a week and then disappoint everyone, because you got other people there depending on you and your deliverables usually.
No,
so
exactly.
You're not doing yourself any favors. Give realistic expectations of what you can do and what the timelines are. I mean, unforeseen things happen, but if you're already lying about it up at the beginning, this isn't going to end well for you.
Yeah. No, I would always pad every project schedule that I had, a couple months here, a couple months there, and you always know, even internally to your actual stakeholders, your internal stakeholders, that you're working for the same company. I guarantee you that if you reach out to any project manager in whatever industry they work in, there's the project manager's schedule that they keep internally that they know about, that it's never published, that's in their head, that they're just like, I know that there's the critical path actually has another couple days here, another couple days there. We're going to say that we're going to end here, but technically, we got a little extra float here on this back end. Of course, you can't ever, if you give people the exact need you want or you need to deliver a project, you're going to get exactly that. And guess what happens? The second something goes wrong, you're going to be scrambling, freaking out. What am I going to do? Where am I going to make up this time? I mean, I know it. I've learned it the hard way. So I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, look, I know this and I know that. It's because I got burned before, and burned badly to the point where it hurt. I don't want to do that again. So,
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, that's how you learn. You learn a valuable lesson when you mess up like that, or you get burnt somehow. I mean, but don't make the same mistake twice.
Exactly.
Learn from them.
Come on, nothing ever goes wrong.
No.
It's fine.
Everything's perfect.
So I got a question for you, Santi. what advice would you give to like engineers, technicians, your doer workforce? What would you give to those people when they're coming into a project first? Like, what's the single most important thing that you want them to know when they're coming into a new project?
No, that's a great question. I think the biggest takeaway for someone working on a project for the first time is really just letting them know that as corny as it may sound, there's no stupid questions, there's no wrong answers. It really is about keeping people engaged and letting them know that, we're all working towards a common goal. So it's okay to not know something. I think a lot of times when people get in a big room and they're working on a project and they're looking around in a room of their peers and they're like, oh man, like, this guy might be a director, he's a manager of this department or this and that. And they're just like, well, I'm just, a regular guy or a regular gal. And it's like, no, like you're in this room for a reason because of the skill set that you likely bring to your company and the knowledge that you hold, right? So I think the key there is just making sure that people understand that they're there for a reason. They were selected to be there, whether it was voluntold or volunteered, right? But for whatever reason it may be, they're in that room. So make sure everyone has that equal voice to ensure that they know what they're doing and how to accomplish the goal at hand.
So, what can people do to make your life easier? So, I mean, I actually have one
I got
thing
a laundry
that,
list. Not kidding.
Yeah. My one addition to that would be don't hide from the project manager. Because a lot of people they'll just kind of, well, if I ignore him, he'll go away. I don't think that ever works out for them. Let them do their job. You're just wasting more of both of your times. But
Yeah.
to let you answer my question before I finish answering my question.
No, I mean you're right. The thing is though, I'm so stubborn like that you can't get away from me or you can't hide from me. I will find you, and that is one of the I will find you. But I gotta say that is the one. If there's one single thing, and not to deviate too much, but one single thing that I miss about our pre-COVID world, because there's not much, but the one thing was when we would work in an office and you have those people that are working on your project. We probably all experienced them before. They don't reply to an email, they don't pick up the phone, they don't answer a text, and they're rifling through trying to get some answers. But you know what they can't ignore is when I show up at your office and I'm standing there and
Lean on the edge of their cube.
Exactly.
Hey, guy.
Yeah.
How you doing there, buddy?
Right up until then, I was like, "Oh, you've worked with me." No.
I will find you. But really, I'm like, I was that guy. And they would always tell me like, man, you're like a bull in a china shop. This company is very slow to adapt and this and that. I'm like, okay, sounds good. I'm here to do a job. I appreciate that feedback, but yeah, we're gonna get it done. But the thing is, it's not about you're seen as brash or you're seen as really pushing that envelope, but then you kill them with kindness, as corny as it may be. Just being yourself and letting people know yet again, like, you're here for a reason. I need your skill set for X, Y, and Z, and this is why we need to have timely responses. And and again, if that doesn't work, then yeah, you can be an asshole, right? You can just be like, hey, look, like, if you don't do this, like, I don't have the authority to like kick you off the project or anything like that, but I'm sure your director is not going to you're not going to be happy with you. And then you can start pulling cards like that. And then, have I had to do that before? Yeah, sadly I have, but it is effective. So more than
Hey,
one way to get
Santiago.
it done.
Hey, Travis.
Hey, Travis.
I'm curious, like, where's your threshold? Because that's always my thing. I have a pretty low tolerance for like what I consider bad faith behavior. Because what you're describing is like, oh, I couldn't answer that email. I'm like, oh, your finger's broken? Like, oh, interesting. You seem to have no problem texting your girlfriend and your wife, but yet that email doesn't seem to quite make it through. It's so weird.
No, that's a good question. I mean, I think honestly, to me, it really is kind of like a case by case basis. So I first try to understand, like, not who my audience is per se, but who I'm interacting with, as far as like obviously level of, in the whole corporate, play field, or corporate America and all that stuff. You want to make sure that you're not, kind of, punching above your weight class for per se, right? But at the end of the day, when you're trying to complete the project on time, there comes a limit where you're just like, okay, look, like, I need this done, so maybe the lower the ranking employee, the more, the quicker I would get to that brash level where I'd be like, hey, my patience is running out. And maybe if I'm talking to like a director or a vice president, I might be a little more softer with my delivery. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to deliver my message, is the point, right? I'm still going to make sure that my message to them is going to be, we need you for X, Y, and Z. You were selected, or you were told to do this, or whatever reasoning may be that you are here. I need you to play an engaging role in this project. And if you can't, then please assign someone that can. So that it really depends. To me, it always depended on who the person was, as far as like their level within the organization. And if I was given enough of a hard time, I would go to my project sponsors and I'd say, this person needs to be replaced. Either they're bringing down the environment where they're just a negative person and they're just complaining about everything. It's not really helping. And I would rather do their work than have to put up with them, or they're just not engaging and they're just not really being helpful, and we need to replace them with another employee, even if it sets us back a little bit, because then we just go into the little, secret schedule per se, right? And you dig out a couple days here and there and you figure it out.
Yeah, I've had my experience of like being that lowest person on the totem pole at times, and you have either a really bad project manager or other bad coworkers. It's like that college project. It's like, oh, I ended up doing 90% of the work because the other like 10 people aren't doing anything. It's like, hey Travis, have you got that thing yet? It's like, it's literally not my job. It is literally what they pay this person for, and only this person. And there's this like, then the project manager or leader, or even up all the way to the C-suite, will be like, well, who's to say who's responsible for this? I'm like, look, you literally are. So
yeah,
right.
Ultimately you.
It's not me. I'll give you a hint. One of us isn't a manager. It's in your title. So
Right.
that's the struggles I have at the lower ranks.
No, I
It's
hear
like
you.
just seem kind of feckless leaders. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've honestly, that's always been a really big challenge for me, like whole ethics and more, not maybe ethics, but the moral challenge of like, you become frustrated at times, right? And especially in my younger years of project management, I was like, that's it. I'm turning off my phone and this and that, right? And they're like, if you can't get a hold of me, too bad. I'm on vacation. And then at least for me, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure it's probably the same situation. You like 2-3 hours later, you're like, maybe I should turn it back on. And all the emails start rolling in and the phone calls. You're like, please, we need you, and this and that. Like, and they're like, oh crap, I gotta call him back. I feel bad.
Not me. I had 15 years as a paramedic. Like, I'll watch your building burn. I'll bring marshmallows. Like, I don't care.
Yes.
It's like,
I need some of that. How do you pass that knowledge over? I love it.
You just got to be able to like take all your feelings and just kind of set them aside. I'll take all those moral chains and just shove them off and just kick back and enjoy the glow of the burning building. Like, it does take a skill set. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you got to be a heartless bastard at times.
That's great. That is great.
I've always said, don't run into a burning building.
No.
Hey, I tell people in theater all the time, I don't want any heroes.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone died, Chris, because there were no heroes.
Yeah, you either die a villain or you live long enough to see yourself. Like, you either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Look, unless you're in combat or you signed on for a hero job, you are more likely a corpse than a hero.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
Statistically, well, depending on how you're trained, but yes, there's
right. If you're trained for it, great. If you're not, you're probably just in the way.
and I can say from experience, having been in multiple, let's say, hero titles, is like when that word drops, oh, you're a hero. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what it means. It means the risk level goes through the roof and the pay dumps down. You're like, uh-oh,
Yeah.
I'm getting
Yeah.
fucked.
This sucker's gonna do it for less money than someone else. Let's
was-
sign him up to everything. Like,
I was dying laughing. I mean, I'm a sick, twisted individual, but like during the early parts of COVID, when they're talking about the frontline workers, like our heroes, I'm like, I know what that means. Sure shit. We're gonna get that hazard pay, right? I'm like, heroes
No.
don't get that. You silly
No,
kids.
you get a pat on the back.
right.
You get a pizza
Well,
party.
from a distance,
Pizza-
you get an
Yeah.
attaboy.
Pizza party.
Then they get a little paper printed out paper certificate, right? Like,
Sometimes you don't even get that.
oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, no. You maybe like there's times because I was military and it's like the worst thing. And Brian, maybe you can vouch for this. Like, thank you for your service is like the most slap in the face comment. It's like, hey, it'd be really cool to have like
Weird.
the actual veterans and Memorial Day off and maybe some health care for all the shit I did. That'd be cool, right? Oh no, I was thinking like a pizza party. I'm like, all right, yeah, no, fuck me.
and early boarding on Delta. I mean, you can't forget about
Ooh.
that. I mean,
Oh, I milk
right?
those.
No.
I milk those. I get my free baggage. I'm doing it every time.
No,
baby.
not
Oh,
really,
no.
because you only get to board early if you're traveling in uniform,
Oh,
and you're not allowed
that's
to
right.
travel in
Oh,
uniform.
bastards.
Oh no, you can ask Brian. You can just step in and just be like, "I'm military," and you can just roll in. I do it all the time.
Oh,
There you
no,
go.
really.
I just,
But
I
the
just
other
usually.
part is like, there's no point in boarding the plane early because, like, what are you gonna do? Just wait for more people to board? It's a camp.
It's the most
Right,
It's
like
the
ridiculous
benefit.
part.
Why do I
Perk
want to
of
be
the
on
world.
this in my obnoxious steerage? I'm sorry, economy class seat.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah,
first
well,
class is
first
so
class,
nice. I
yeah.
already have champagne in my hand.
Yeah.
By the
That-
time the first rows behind first are starting to board.
If
Yeah.
that ain't the thing that demonstrates classification of our egalitarian society, I don't know what is. Like when first
Yep.
class is like, oh, hi, as you trot past your tiny little cubby. This is where they put the meat while they're transporting it to slaughter.
I've heard the term cattle class in the back, and I always loved it.
Yeah.
I thought that
Yeah.
was perfect.
You know what?
That's
No,
literally-
because they treat cattle better than they treat steerage. I'm sorry,
That's
economy.
fair.
True. Yeah.
I do like they put the separator so that we the rich don't have to see us pores in the back. I just like
Oh,
it's such a like a
we
minor,
appreciate that too.
It's not so much the sight,
Right,
smell.
Santi?
I've been quiet. I mean, I can't remember the last time I flew coach. I'm sorry. Like,
Doesn't
I
block the
wanna
smell,
get
though,
the
right?
proletariat ass down here with the bourgeoisie.
but as a project manager, I project manage the shit out of those miles to make sure I can sit in first class.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not paying for that. I'm sorry. They're not getting that benefit from me.
Oh no, you paid for it.
Oh, it was my time.
There's
I guess,
nothing.
right?
There's no such thing as free lunch.
That's true. That's true. That is true.
Thank you,
Aw,
Nora.
thanks, Nora. Oh wait,
God.
shit.
Oh,
That means we're
here.
getting
Oh.
no pay for this. Crap.
Yep. Oh God, I know.
Damn it.
I
Well,
was like,
Yeah,
wait,
the
what
pizza
happened?
party thing.
I was
Yeah.
promised free lunch. What's
Yep.
going on?
Yep.
this is a paid gig, right?
Yeah, right. I'm like, I'm out of booze. What's going on here? Like,
Yeah. Healthcare, a holiday, maybe like not having to starve on the side of a freeway. I was just thinking like a hearty handshake once a year. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's
We're
a
on the
there's a
same
video.
page.
I'll send it to you guys. It's H3H3 Productions. It's a couple years old now, but it speaks to my heart. It's like they talk about the Veterans Day deals and like Memorial Day is like, and you get a free small pancake. Small. Don't get greedy. Small. It's just mocking all that crap I never go into the shops to get the freebies because they're always like some minor crap that's like,
Yeah.
like, dude, just tell me F you to my face. I'd at least respect you.
right.
Hey, you know what? I'll do that for you, Travis, but it's not because you served.
Nice.
But are you gonna make him a pancake or slap him? Which one?
No, I'm going to tell him F you to his face.
Oh, there
As
you
I
go.
serve
No.
him.
I was like, I got really confused by that one. I was like, but Chris, which one is
Hey man,
it?
don't ruin the surprise. I like
Yeah,
surprises,
right.
all right?
You gotta,
Yeah.
High risk gamble.
I got surprises.
I bet.
Oh man.
All right. Well, this got derailed quick.
Sure
Yeah.
did.
It's like,
All right,
what,
so-
what happened to
This
project
is what I'm doing your
management?
project.
That's how you
I'm here to
derail
derail.
a project.
and that's how you,
Exactly.
yes.
Ta-da.
So let's talk about project management and,
WTK had it right.
and derailing them, right? Is there ever a time where it's appropriate to just completely sandbag a project?
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
If it's I have a personal philosophy, no 1984 shit. If it's something that's like offensive to the workers, like we want to watch them every second, you're going to help build it. Like either no or okay. And then I just like wrench that engine constantly.
Be like, here's
that's-
the compliance reason why we can't do that.
No,
Sorry.
my solution to that problem is like, you want to watch the employees? Fine. I'm just going to make sure that the executives' results show up like towards the top, but peppered in so they can't be filtered out first. And you know what? They do
that's
it for
wrenching
me.
the engine right there, right? I mean, that's wrenching it. Is you're just
Malicious compliance.
Yeah.
called poisoning the well. It's like, yeah, it's in there. There's data in there somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
I'd agree with that reason, or some other. It's something that you and everybody knows will not end well, hurt the business ultimately for some reason, but no one listened.
What about another
But-
reason? If it's a foundational component, right? So if there's foundation that's being worked on, because I've seen this, like the foundational project and then something built on top, and they're like trying to run them in parallel, which won't work. They're like, all right, let me kind of like slow this one down a little bit to allow the base to kind of catch up. I've seen that.
Nora, I wouldn't say it's an obsolete art. I'd say it's a completely forgotten one.
It's a forgotten art. Anytime
Definitely
I've-
not obsolete
Yeah,
because
like-
it's more real than ever and more necessary
Yeah.
than ever because those requirements have gotten infinitely more complex than they were
Yeah.
20 years ago.
anytime
But for
I've
some
ever-
reason, we think we don't have to do that anymore.
if I've ever wanted to gotten out of something, if I can feel that like something is like, I can feel like the ground rumbling below me, like the thing that like is the cold water is, what are the requirements for this? And then like there's crickets.
What do you mean?
And then there's
What do you mean? What do I mean? what are the requirements? What's the goal here?
yeah, what's the goal? What are we trying to do? And 9 times out of 10, I never hear about it again. So there you go.
Well,
Nice.
Being like, oh, I thought you were gonna work on that or some shit like that. You're just like, wait, what?
I'm gonna
You
need
signed
first
me
class
up.
to work on that.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
There's not
Well,
enough
'cause-
room in a cattle car, you know.
No, yeah.
Can't get out the laptop. I can't do anything, man. I gotta-
Well, isn't that kind of like it's like a multi for every stage of a project? Because there's stuff of like design phase, like, okay, what are the requirements? But then I've been in like, as a more peon, like we're in the execution phase. Like, cool, where's your design documents of what we're building? Like, ooh, what's that? I'm like, well,
Yeah,
shit.
there aren't any.
Well, you should
Why-
have had
why
most
would
of
you
your
need something?
requirements before you even started planning the project. I mean, why are you doing it in the first place? Didn't you have a business need that you're trying to fulfill? Well, that's a requirement. Why isn't that on the list?
Well, there's some unique business models that are like, because I was in the government and so were you. There was like a lot of the government, and especially military, is like what is it? Use it or lose it. So with budgets, it's
Right.
like if you don't use the money, you don't get it ever again. So we're like, all right, you know, we've skimped for like 99% of the year, and then we're gonna spend like, you know, cocaine fueled rages in Vegas like a month.
Oh, and by the way, you have to have this all implemented before the end of the fiscal year so that we can depreciate it.
Yep.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, it's my favorite thing to see.
We didn't have
companies-
toilet paper in the first quarter, and now we have stacks and stacks of gear
The
that I
whole
need to
hangars
get
are filled
implemented
with toilet
now.
That's where the requirements gathering documents went. They're using it as
Yeah.
toilet
Yeah.
paper. That's why I couldn't find it. You're like, shit.
And I feel bad because I've seen project managers brought on. You're just like, here, we need to have this 6-month project done in 1 month, and you have half the people you need. Go. We're like, well, this guy's hosed. That's kind of dick move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the inevitable response when asked the question like, how? They're like, well, that's what the project manager's for.
manage your project. We want you to go to space on a shoestring budget. Good luck.
So I've worked for companies that have tried to flatten the end of your hockey stick, but still want to do business with the government. And it's hilarious to me. Like, you just don't get how this works. Like, they don't spend until the end of the year, end of the quarter, and then the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're working with utilities like municipalities and everything for the last 10 years. It is the most hilarious thing because all of a sudden, I mean, you're running this project and then they're trying to like, can you guys cram in another, 5,000 installations before December 31st? Because if I don't use this money, I'm going to lose it. No, we really can't hire that many people that quickly to get this work done. Well, what can I do with my money? I'm like, I wish you would have approached me 6 months ago and we could have, maybe figured out
Done this properly.
take us
Yeah.
delivery.
Yeah.
Because it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And you're like, you're dealing with this on an annual basis. So why is it always a surprise? That's what always drove me nuts when I was running these projects. It wasn't like, yes, my project is maybe new for you as a capital like improvement project, but so maybe the magnitude is 10 times larger your capex or your opex, but for God's sakes, like you're going to have the same issue year over year over year. If you don't, as Travis said, if you don't spend it, you lose it.
And it's always like a surprise party.
What?
Yeah, right?
Yes, right. That's
It's
what
like,
I'm saying.
oh,
Why
how
though?
could we have
Like, what
possibly
the
known
hell?
that this was going to happen? It's like, I can set my watch to it every year. You're going to blow, you're going to wake up at December 1st and be like,
Holy shit!
what's going on?
That's why in a capitalist society, it's important for any business that contracts with a government entity to have a super premium offering that like has one extra feature but costs 6 times as much. So when they come to you and say, well, what do I do with my money? You're like, well, we've got this.
Boy, do I have a SKU for you.
And they're like,
Product line.
we have the best in breed.
Yeah.
Instead of the button being green, we're going to give you color choices. It's going to be red or green.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another $5 million.
Cornflower blue, please. Cornflower blue.
I've seen that in some businesses. If like some hotels would do this, if you do like a stare and compare and ask them for all their prices, sometimes the Govy rate is actually near the top because they know you're going to get comped for it, so they jack up the prices just a little bit. And I've seen that in practice. And be like, oh, I'm military, I'm not on orders. They're like, oh, okay, here's an actual fair price. Oh, you're on orders? Here's a stupid price because I know you're going to pay it and it's not coming out of your pocket.
That's like negotiated rates for any business. Like I used to compare negotiated rate on car rental, airfare, hotel, like from big companies that theoretically should have a bunch of negotiating power. And then I'd compare it to like bog standard retail rate on that company's website, like no particularly special deal. And it's like, okay, negotiated rate is literally 50% more. Why would I ever do this?
Because they had to negotiate.
Well, just looking out for the company's bottom line, right? Like, why would I do this? Like, and you get in and it's like, okay, I could have bought the hotel online and gotten parking included, but I got it through the negotiated rate and it was 25% more. But no, now I got to pay for extra parking, no breakfast. Like, what the?
Well, they were a preferred vendor, so we had to deal with them.
There's also a temporal component that's usually very prevalent. Like, so, you look at like residential ISPs, like the prices are almost always going down. Same thing with cell phone service. So if you I got a sweet 10-year contract, you're like, dog, you're probably going to be like slightly lower, but the market is eventually just going to beat you out and you'll just be eating L's. Because I've seen it at a current couple of companies that I've worked for, like, we got this great long-term rate. Like, yeah, it's cheaper than that now, man. You're with worse technology.
There's almost nothing you should sign a contract that long for. Especially
I'm a big believer in a 3-year contract. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and the reason I'm a big believer in a 3-year contract is they're going to give you some like theoretical discount, but you know what? You get 2 years where you don't have to go through it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's more than that too. Like as far as like the utility world, you're working. You hit it. I think either Travis or Chris, you guys mentioned it as far as the technology, right? The obsolescence of the technology. When the projects that I've worked on for the last decade, the technology is, geared around this whole marketing jazz of 20-year technology, this, that, the other. We really know that based on, the last 20 years themselves, that technology really probably runs about 12 to 14 years on average. Nobody leaves it in for 20 years. So to that point, you want to try to negotiate.
Not nobody.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess look at our infrastructure, right? Yeah, look at crumbling cities and everything.
We're not
But
allowed to talk about infrastructure on this show. I'll get too mad.
Oh, okay, but don't get me started, buddy, because you don't want to know. Sidebar. We'll go out for a drink. Yeah.
We'll have a. You know what? Let's do a fridge scribbles on infrastructure.
A very special fridge scribbles.
It's gonna kill
That's our
my
other
insights.
channel.
Oh,
Yeah.
bet. All right.
That's our
bet.
non-IT one that we haven't done many videos on.
Gotcha. I thought you were gonna literally bring out a fridge on the picture, and Chris is gonna
That's how
start
it
drawing
started.
on it. I was like, all right, cool.
That
let's
literally
go.
is how it started.
I'm like, I'll start ranting about random stuff and like.
You'll fit right in.
Yep.
It'll be perfect.
Be
That's all this
warned, there's
channel
more
really is.
drinking involved on that one, so.
Yeah, I'm out of booze. The kid went to bed, so I'm like, I need another one.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
Time to
go grab
reload
another
there,
one.
sailor.
We got time.
What you need is one of these.
I do have one right here, right next to me, but it's actually empty, unfortunately. So I know,
I
ill
thought you were a
prepared.
project manager.
I
Quit that,
know. I
man.
was gonna
Come
say
on.
the project
Delegated
manager
that.
didn't
This is a
prepare.
critical failure right now.
Mhm.
No beer in the beer fridge.
No, I actually emptied it because we're going on a trip tomorrow. See, I was pre-planning, So like,
Ah, okay, fair enough.
so like it's
I
actually in the
guess.
it's actually in the
We'll
cooler.
let that one slide. Yeah.
It was a save. It was definitely a save.
Wait, you have to empty your beer fridge to have beer for a trip.
No,
We gotta talk.
I'm just cheap, and I didn't want to go buy it at the store, so I just
Hey, no, it's cheaper to buy it in bulk.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Chris has got an
I-
extended fridge. Like it looks like a small entry, but it actually goes back 20 feet and has a
You know
built
what?
for
If
drinking
he
Yeah.
starts
rules.
crawling in there
Yeah.
after the
It's
show,
not that way now, but
Like
now
Mary
it's gonna
Poppins' purse pulling beers
yeah,
out
yeah.
of there.
It was like, whoosh, he takes out this huge umbrella. I'll be like, oh shit, where did this come from?
Hold on. Let's try that again.
Oh man. This is called we're at least 3 standard deviations away from the real topic. Of what
Yeah,
we're-
yeah.
Hey,
That
look, if
happens a
drinking
lot.
isn't part of
It's
project
fine.
management, I don't know what is.
I don't know
How
how
did
you
you
do
even
project
do it right?
management without drinking. So.
Are you doing it right? I don't think you're doing it right.
Rule number 1: if you want to derail a project, drugs and alcohol, baby. Knock that thing right out of the park.
Point of order. I think that Winston Churchill would have something to say about that.
Yes.
That man managed a really, really big project with a regular, healthy dose of drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
And I
Well, I would say an
maintain that he
unhealthy
wouldn't have done it
dose.
well.
I was gonna say, yeah, didn't he die young?
No, died in his like 60s or 70s.
Yeah, it was
For
sick,
that
yeah,
era is pretty
Yeah,
good.
that's
Fair.
true. That's true. Fair point.
But he was drinking what, like 3 bottles of champagne a day?
Yeah,
A
couple of
3
mixed
bottles of
drinks.
champagne. He started every morning with a scotch and water mixture.
At like 3 in the afternoon, because that's when he woke up for the day.
Oh
I
my
think
god.
it was like 10 a.m., but then he would be up until 3 or 4 in the morning every night.
Yeah.
But, like he had a weird shifted schedule, but like he got like 6-7 hours of sleep a night or a morning. Because let's be honest, that's when he was
Yeah.
sleeping. And then he was glass of scotch in his hand basically as soon as he woke up, and kind of went that way the rest of the day. And that's how some of the biggest decisions of World War II got made.
Yeah,
Gotta
you
love
don't
it.
get a hangover if you never stop drinking.
Yeah, Silicon Valley should like rename that to like micro like shots. or
Micro
something,
dosing.
Like, micro
Yeah,
dosing alcohol. Yeah. Try the new trend.
Yeah.
Productivity.
I think that's been a thing for a while.
Like,
I
good
mean-
lord, you're like, what?
Let's
Yeah.
see if ChatGPT
Yeah.
can tell me what
that's
Winston
sort of-
Churchill's intake was.
I literally just saw that for the first time 2 days ago. Can you believe it? I'm very skeptical of these random things that are going to take our knowledge. So thank you, Nora, for bringing it up, because I was like, no, this thing is going to steal everything we know. I'm not using it. Mind blown, honestly.
Well,
It will make
here's
some
my
things
thoughts on
easy.
like AI and ChatGPT, as far as to kind of keep it somewhat on the rails, I suppose, is like it takes all of human knowledge and brings it together into one sort of platform. And we've tried that before. Microsoft did with their like Deep Blue or something like that, when it took all of like Twitter in, and then it became a racist monster after like 24 hours, and they had to rip it
Not
down.
even.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're gonna steal our jobs, and like, if you think humanity is overwhelmingly positive and good things, then please give me whatever you're taking. I want to have some too. That is absolutely not the case.
That's why aliens haven't landed. They've seen our transmissions. They know what we're all about.
They pass by every once in a while, and they're like, nah, let's keep going.
It's like the ghetto of the universe.
They'll take care of themselves.
Some human trying to wash my windshield. Keep driving.
Hey, just I want to call out that I asked ChatGPT what was Winston Churchill's daily alcohol intake, and ChatGPT is apparently a little bit puritanical, right?
Oh, it doesn't want to talk about it?
Well, so here's the bit that I'm going to call out. Churchill's drinking habits were notable, and he was known to have consumed alcohol throughout the day, including during breakfast and even during important meetings. However, it is worth mentioning that he also had a remarkable capacity for work and a busy schedule, despite his indulgence. Despite? If that isn't a puritanical statement, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't have been able to keep his busy schedule and his productivity level if he hadn't indulged at that level.
Well, here's some. I actually had a chat with my wife earlier today, and I find it like, because sometimes when I'm chatting with my mom, like I'm a millennial, through and through, and she'll use me as an example, like, see, Travis made it so other people can. I'm like, yeah, all I had to do was risk death for 15 years and success. Like, it's not I don't recommend this metric. It's like, well, also Bill Gates dropped out of college, and so did, douchebag over at Facebook. It's like, they're one-offs. You shouldn't really use that as a metric for success.
Right, yeah. Black swans are not statistical representation.
They're anomalies.
Right?
Yeah, it's like,
No.
Oh, wait. So let me finish what ChatGPT has to say in its judgmental tone of voice. It is important to remember that excessive alcohol consumption can have negative health effects and can be detrimental to one's well-being. While Churchill's alcohol intake is part of his historical legacy, it is not a behavior to be encouraged or emulated. Go yourself, ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, get off your high horse.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. ChatGPT, get off your high horse and go yourself.
Go live a little.
With a rusty
Off hours, of course. Huh?
whiskey spoon.
My, oh my.
Skynet
See what
protocol
makes of that.
activate.
I just ruined it. I've been getting along with our future robot overlords up until now, but
Yeah, Aurora's got a good point in the chat. Yeah, dropped out of Harvard. It's like, yeah, it wasn't easy to get into Harvard. Like,
Yeah.
no, I went to community
Not really
college,
the same
so
thing.
yeah, but it's like these are different scales. Let's say, orders of magnitude differential.
Yeah.
you know who doesn't drop out of Harvard? People with so much money that they don't need to go start a business.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
A little financial insulation.
yeah.
I mean, that helps in all things in life, I'd think.
It's like,
Helps
I don't
you
want to
learn
go on the
nothing,
Harvard
for God's
tangent,
sakes. That's the
but
problem.
I just want to say that, like,
Lord.
Harvard's paid
Yeah.
for, right? Like, their endowment is so huge that they don't ever need to charge tuition ever, right? Like, fully funded forever. And still, one of the highest tuition bills in the world to go to Harvard. Why? Because they're capitalists.
Gatekeeping.
Right?
Nah.
Yeah.
Gatekeeping.
Yeah. What's the price for a
Keep
human
out the
life?
pores.
Yeah, it
Whatever
keeps out
the
pores,
market
man.
will
You don't
bear.
want them pores in there.
I know. Well,
With all the
and that's
poverty.
what it is. It's whatever the market will bear. I mean,
Yeah.
any college that didn't keep raising rates until they didn't have more people trying to get in than they could accommodate would be doing a disservice to the college itself. Well, do they have shareholders?
Well, there's like
Whatever.
a reputational
Oh,
thing.
but
If you
yeah,
look
They
into
call
like
them
some of the
alumni.
Yeah.
Yeah,
look
right,
at-
Wow.
exactly.
yeah, if you look into some of like there's some interesting documentaries, and because like I believe Cisco does a similar thing for like their CCNA tests and above, that they actually purposely will like fail people to sort of like maintain that like, ooh, you're elite, ooh, you made it,
Yeah.
even though it's like
Yeah.
artificial, and they'll do the same thing at those colleges. They'll just like say no to good candidates because they're like, haha. It kind of keeps that like reputation of like, ooh, we're good, and you're just being
Oh,
artificially.
magna cum laude. We don't want
You don't keep your summa in your credenza.
you. Yes.
Only a 4.1. What is this? Animal Hour? Get out.
Oh.
What's that? You were class president, valedictorian, and you saved starving grandmas on your weekends? Come back when you've actually done something with your life.
We have people that were president before they were even in college or high school. They were in middle school and already class president.
We hire people to be class president for us.
Oh, that's next level.
Yeah.
But that kind of leads to like, because I've seen this in like project groups, both in like college and in work, is there's the standard of, let's say a manager or a project manager or whatever will be like, well, look, this insane person. I mean, I think Elon Musk is an interesting example. He's like, I work 7 days, 14 days, or 14 hours a day, and that's what I do. I'm like, all right, well, you're a psychopath, and don't make your other people do it. That's not a measuring stick to do that. There's when superstars show up, people tend to like, I don't know, maybe you've seen this, San Diego, but the bar tends to go like up too far, and then it's like unfair to other people. Like, well,
Holy shit!
so
don't
a
get
perfect
me
example.
started. You're totally
Yeah.
right. Wait. Go ahead, Travis. Yeah,
So
I got one
I
for
was-
you for sure.
I was at Cambia. It was my first gig coming out, and they had an entire department dedicated to making programs work because most of the C-suite had Apple products, and I've seen this almost everywhere. It's like the C-suite wants to use their Apple devices, and it's like, how do you make this work? It's like have an entire floor dedicated to making stuff work on Mac. And then I go to another company, it's like, we want to have stuff work like it does at Cambia. I'm like, do you have an entire fleet of devs to do that? No.
Then
Like,
it-
well,
It ain't gonna
It ain't
happen.
Then what the
honey.
hell do you think is gonna happen with this? Like, yeah. No, like to your point about the superstar and raising the bar. I mean, I not gonna name anybody here. I loved everybody who I hired on my past team, but I will just kind of high level tell you a little bit of a story. So obviously, as I built out this entire portfolio for the PMO, project management office that I built with all PMP certified project managers, I hired this girl. She was kind of shy in the interview process, and I'm like, you know what? I think she's going to be really good. Shares the same, similarities as far as my personality. Really soft spoken with clients. Is gonna, if she can really get into the nitty gritty of working with these utilities, getting out in the field, she's going to be one of the most amazing project managers out there. And I saw this potential in her. And so you fast forward a year into the job, and she just really starts coming out of her shell. So we had this running joke, like we called her the peacock. Because like a peacock is just kind of walking around like, oh, nothing, and pow, strut your stuff, exactly. You're just like, oh, snap, like, and look what I can do, you're just like jumping around. And yeah, it's but to that point, right? So I worked with her for about 3 years, promoted her twice when I was at my past company before heading out to greener pastures. But I can tell you, after leaving And then after I left, half my team left behind me that I hired, and every single one of them told me the same thing. I love this person, but damn, they made me feel this, or damn, they made me feel that. Not because they were a bad person, just because they raised the bar so high.
Yep.
Their level of execution was so good. Their responsiveness, their way of handling tasks, the way of running projects, they just literally, they made everybody else look bad without meaning to do that. You know, it
Yeah.
wasn't ever on purpose. It wasn't ever like, oh, I'm going to do this just so I can look good. That's how they operate. They just operated at a different level. And by doing that, it just raised,
So-
and hell, even me, because before she came along, I was always regarded as the best project manager the company's ever seen. But I was happy to step out of that way, go into management, and just groom people and build them up. But it's an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
I find that statement interesting because one of the things that I think makes for really truly successful people and actual rock stars are people that are so good that they bring everybody up with them. Right? If everybody else is like, oh my Lord, that person delivers so amazing, they make me feel awful because I don't deliver at that level. That person's got great talent, right? But what they're missing is the ability to bring the team with them. When everybody is better without realizing it, that's the person you want. Because you know what? You can be amazing by yourself, and that's great. But if your team is 20% better because of you, that is so much more productive.
And
there's a hidden
I agree, but there's two levels, right?
Right.
There's that individual contributor, right, which we have here, and then you have that to your point, Chris, that like team manager, like team building contributor, right?
Right.
She never had, and was always clear from the get-go, she never had managerial aspirations to say, hey, I want to take this team of people, I want to manage people, I've done this before, I don't want to do it anymore, I just want to focus on me, I want to grow myself and my team, myself, and those around me, and build processes. They can pick them up or not, that's their choice. Where I'm of the mindset of like, okay, I did this individualistic path, or individual path, let's not call it individualistic, right? And it was great, but I got bored. And I'm like, okay, what's next? Like, I managed all these projects, and it got so cookie cutter for me. And I started learning that I really enjoyed transferring that knowledge and looking at what other people were doing in the field and saying, hey, you know what? Why don't you try this? Or let's build a process, and really trying to develop people from the inside out, to your point, to really kind of bring people up and then bringing the rest of the team up with you. So I don't disagree with you. I just think there's two different paths that people can take. And as long as, I guess, you put, in my opinion, right, everyone's got their own opinion on it, but like, as long as you're putting your cards out on the table and you're not a narcissistic prick, fair game, right?
Fair.
If you're narcissistic, then, well, screw you. I don't want to work with you anyway.
With you. You don't, it's not everybody that wants to be like, some people just want to look out for themselves. And if they're amazing, that's great. I just think that people are often too hard on themselves, right? Like,
oh God,
you don't have to be great.
Yep.
Although the soup du jour in the sales world is like, hey, you don't have to be great. You just have to sit next to somebody who's great. I'm like, that's a lie.
That's not really true.
No. AKA ride their coattails until they don't make any more sales. You're like, what the heck?
And that's something that I think there's another component that people who haven't been rock stars or mules don't understand. They're like, oh, well, this person brings everyone up. And it's like, that's not a free cost. Being that rock star, sometimes it's like dragging them, I call it dragging them across the starting line, let alone the finish line. It's like, dude, it's not free. Hey, Travis is so great. You do all this extra stuff. I'm like, I would rather not. I'd rather you actually just do your job, but...
Exactly. I mean, exactly. I mean, you guys heard this term before. I mean, the whole adage of like project managers are basically glorified babysitters, right? I mean, that's kind of what it is.
I totally had a project manager change my diapers once.
More than
It was a
once,
special
but
party.
you got charged the second time.
Yeah.
Project manager to the stage, please. Project manager to the stage.
Yeah.
Weirdest stripper name I ever heard.
Yeah.
Good name. Good name.
Hey, they'll
I mean,
do
you're one
anything
letter
for
away
money.
from pimp, PMP. I mean, just add the I in. You'll be solid.
But I don't think everybody has to either carry the team or become a manager to make the whole team better. I think the right people can inspire, like not even as a manager, just as a teammate, can inspire other people to do better. If it's the right person, if it's the right other people in the right team, that person can inspire everyone to do better, just to hold themselves and everything that the work that they do to a higher standard. And the converse is absolutely true. If you're in a place where the bar is so low you almost trip over it, it brings everyone down. Nothing will kill a rock star quicker than a terribly low bar, especially if they're not allowed to just do their thing and they succumb to the the funk of basically a toxic work environment, or even if it's not like to the level of toxic where a rock star in a townie bar.
It's hard to be a rock star in a townie bar.
Yeah,
right?
It's like when do you figure it out? After the third month of getting employee of the month and you're working 20 hours a week, you're like, oh shit, what the hell's going on? You know, like, so I keep winning this thing, and
keep dropping it down. So you got to optimize. You're at that 20, get that to 10, maybe. Then maybe drop it down to like 1.
Do you know how many salespeople I've known that would consider that a mark of success? I'm employee of the month, yo.
Well, there's also like a crabs in the bucket mentality that I've seen, right?
Yes.
Where you have this, like, you have the rock star, and instead of people being inspired to go up, it's like you said, Brian, they're like, oh, that's the guy, I gotta take him down a peg.
Oh yeah.
Like,
they'll kneecap the shit out of you.
The other shitbirds around him will like they'll finally actually work together against me or the like rock star to like we're gonna work together to bring him down. I'm like, Jesus, man, don't you have anything better to do with your life?
No, that's the same person that will work twice as hard to try and not do work as they will actually doing work.
Right. No joke. That is why I've made a point in like the last probably 10 to 15 years of my career to not be a rock star. It's to be a guy that gets other people to tap their inner rock star. Right? Like, I want to look like a bumbling idiot around my coworkers. And I try to make sure that they do that. And I don't do it by completely sandbagging, right? Like, I'm somewhat competent. But, like, you know, I'm like...
That's debatable. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, somewhat. Hey, you know what?
You teed that one up. You teed that one up. I was like,
just ask your wife how competent I am.
Touchdown. Is that what happened in Jamaica? No, I kidding.
What happened? Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Santi's wife is a lovely and loyal woman.
Yes. I hope so.
So here's a strategy I'll let you guys evaluate because it's one that I've employed. So, Chris, you've gone the route of saying don't be a rock star. My strategy that I usually employ is establish rock star status first, establish it quickly, and then immediately DLC that. It's like, that's what you could get if you give me a But you got to say the magic word, and that's this. And you got to have a certain level of like cold-bloodedness to be like, to roll that back and be like,
so this is what the season pass costs.
That's right. So, oh, we paid it. No, you got season 1. We're in season 2, baby. You got to get that upgrade.
Brian knows this about me. So when it comes to that kind of thing, I just don't have it in me. I will be cold-blooded and cruel when it comes to like supporting my team and making things better. But when it comes to like self-promotion, I'm in a lot of ways, I'm like, I'm your whipping boy.
Chris, just hire me. I'll be your attack dog, man. I'll be your front man and be like, look, man, Chris is gonna lock that shit down. You're gonna get 5 hours of work in this 40.
You know,
maybe
you got to have the right recipe to get that message across, because it can't just be, you know, it can't be all spice and it can't be all sweet and it can't be all sour. It's got to be the right mixture of things. So,
and you better have the sack to back it up.
And
Oh,
you
yeah.
gotta,
Yeah, you gotta be able to stand your ground.
you better have some nuts to go along with it. So
Also have a parachute,
how you
so
do that
don't like
very-
if that's your only job,
I
don't
was
be a
gonna say,
psychopath. And
have the guts
I
to
have this
actually
very
do it.
specialized skill that only one place is hiring. I'm gonna draw a line in the sand. I'm like, maybe don't do that yet.
Yeah, it will
Right.
vary on personality and who your employer is and who your boss is and what the situation is. You just got to kind of tweak it just a little bit each time, that recipe.
Yeah.
So,
Right. I just so
And be willing
the
to
analogy that I
compromise a
use
little bit.
for like my
Reasonable.
skill set is like I'm a smoke jumper, right? I'm good in a crisis. I can solve problems, at least for the short term, right? And I can take intensity without any real issue. But man, you send one smoke jumper after a fire, they're screwed, right?
Need a team.
You need a team. And like,
Yeah.
if you're a good smoke jumper, you are not working that hard. You're working hard enough, but like, you got to leave something in the sack because otherwise you're not leaving alive.
And there's got to be two modes because this is the stuff that I've noticed because all my time in rescue I call bursty type of work. There's bursty and there's marathon. So bursty work means you get the call like 911 when I did that, or jumping out of helicopters, like whoop, SAR alarm goes off, you're out, you're hauling ass, you're going like 110% for 3 hours straight. You come back, you're doing nothing. Like you're chilling, you're relaxing because you might get another call. And in the civilian world, they just keep running people back to back to back. That's what they did at AMR, and you get high burnout. So if you're doing bursty work, if you're a dumpster firefighter, it's like, all right, cool, I get the rest of the day off, right? And they're like, oh no, just keep going. Like, oh, Burnout City, here we come, choo choo. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision. Do you want bursty work or do you want steady marathoners? You can't get both. They want both, but you just can't do it.
yeah, nobody can do that.
Well, you can do it for a little while, and if you're
I
get
did.
a little fuel going.
Oh yeah.
Colombian
no,
marching powder.
no fuel. Hey, no fuel for me. But I mean, I burned for 2 years straight. We burnt the candle both ends. Doing this high-end job in project management, building out this freaking massive portfolio. And then meanwhile, my lovely wife, as Chris has described her, she's selling a 400 property portfolio as a real estate broker in Milwaukee. And she's like, oh, I need some systems. I need operations. I need this. I need that. But to your point, I mean, to really get on the topic of burnout, it's not just a little tidbit or whatever. It's actually real. And I always made fun of like, oh, these damn millennials talking about burnout, this and that. Holy shit. You work for 2 years straight, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, you don't realize it because after a while, you just become a robot. But then you stop and you were like, wait, what happened with the time? What happened to this? And like, what happened to the rest of my hair? And what happened to, and you're just literally like, your brain is mush and you can't even remember what you did yesterday. And I know I just experienced it, and I was like, and I was with a company like that. To Travis's point, they wanted both the burst work and they wanted the marathon work at the same time.
Yeah, from the same person. It's like, all right, well, just have two different teams. You got the bursties and you got the marathoners, but never shall the two merge together as far as like expectations. Because
no, it was insane.
Well, there's so frequently zero recognition of the fact that like, hey, if you're running your people this hot, you may keep them, right? They may be so burnt out that they don't know any different, but the quality of their work is so poor after like 2 or 3 years. Like, you're you're hurting yourself, right? And companies talking a game like, oh, good work-life balance, like, we value the employee, like.
BS.
Really? Because if
they have to tell you that, it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
if you have to say you're a nice guy, you're not.
When they put that in your core values, like, come on, like, I'm sorry.
What's your guys' take? Because I've seen that, like, if it's at the interview or if it's like the company's core values and they have to like broadcast it, it's like it's almost universally bullshit. It's like, we have really good work-life balance. I'm like, oh, I bet you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't have to say that.
Yeah.
hey, we don't slave drive all the time, just like most of the time.
It's
like,
You know what?
so
oh,
this
okay.
is
Look
why
at
I
their
like
parking
point
lot.
Google.
Look in their
Another-
parking lot at noon on a Friday.
Yeah.
If it's full, that's the wrong place.
Yeah.
But if there's like people wandering out in their flip flops and they already have their kayaks loaded on top of the car, and they're like, later,
Yeah.
I mean,
I had a meeting this morning, otherwise I wouldn't have even come in.
Mhm.
Like,
so
okay.
I'll debate that one. There are companies that have that, and it's because like those people are doing what they have to do to survive, right? They've already worked a 56-hour week, and then they came in
Yeah.
for 4 hours on Friday, and then they leave on their kayak. You know what? Nope, not good work life.
Exactly.
Oh, we give people off on Friday. Like, no, you don't. They
Bullshit.
took
True.
they worked their 70 hours this week, and turns out they didn't want to work 88, right?
Mhm.
So they didn't come in
Exactly.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
See,
when
I
I
would
see
like
that-
look at the
13,
eyes.
14-hour days, but that's by my choice.
right.
I mean,
Right.
that's,
But
Right.
when I see companies that universally have staff leave, like when nobody's online at 4 o'clock on a Friday, I'm like, you're burning your people too hard, because somebody should be willing to be in, right?
Mhm.
If you're not burning your people too hard, if they really feel valued, they're like, you know what, somebody's got to mind the store, so I'm
Mhm.
in, right? And like they'll take their lumps. At the same time, like, yeah, if everybody is in from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 4 days a week, and then like maybe they don't need to do business on Friday. I don't know. But yeah, I'm cautious of that whole like, oh, everybody's out at noon on Friday because we're an
Or
awesome
you-
place to work.
Yeah.
I
Or we
found
work.
that the eyes
we
are
work-
usually the best way to look. Is you like look. So when I go in an interview, I try to look at as many people as possible. I mean, I chat with them, so I'm not like, hey man, what are you doing? Like,
You're
it's
like,
not
can I see
weird.
your eyes? Yeah,
Creepy.
what the
Your eyes.
I know. There's some food. Like, oh yes, I see the despair in there. You know, you're
Right.
like, what's
So
going on?
you just look at their face, their eyes, and their demeanor. Because if they're like their eyes are sunken in, they got bags, and everybody's looking like they just ran through a ringer, and universally, and everyone's like slouching over. They're just like doing this. You're like, oh, this is a hellscape. This is a fucking nightmare.
Travis,
I will enter.
I do a similar thing, but I look at beards.
Oh shit!
He's
Chris,
reaching
I
too
want you
far
to
into
film.
his
You do
cooler.
a beard greet with everyone in there. Just
This ASMR moment brought to you by Ob Soups Origami.
I'm so tingly right now, man. I'm tingling.
Oh my gosh, that's great. That is great.
Hey,
I think
know
that's
what
always a
our
good
fan
indicator.
likes.
You just like you can lie about a lot of things, but it's just like if your people look like they've been, if everyone looks like they've been run through a ringer, it's like this ain't like a unique thing. Or it could. Sometimes I've seen it where it's just like they're in a crunch time, but again, that kind of leads to the project manager thing. Is like, well, maybe you're not so good at your work-life balance, and it just points in that direction. It's just a red flag for me. Sometimes it may.
in
Yeah,
IT, we have workloads, right? That are like sometimes you put in 80 hours, right? But if they're asking for that every time, it's not sustainable.
Right.
And it'll show long term, right? It's just like, because as a paramedic, I met tons of people and they're like, I've only had a couple of beers, and you see their faces all jacked up and red, you know, for like years of alcohol abuse. You're like, first time, huh? Mm-mm.
Yeah.
When you live a hard life for a certain amount of time, you know, months, weeks, whatever, it shows on you physically. Your skin looks like hell. Your eyes are sunken in. It's just like, there's a lot of signs that you can see, and you don't even need to be a paramedic to see. You're just like, God, you look like fucking hell, man. You all look like hell. And it's like, oh, it's a short-term burst. I'm like, I don't think so. I think this is a sustained hellscape. This is what it looks like. So I don't know. That's the metrics that I try to gauge when I'm engaging with like a new company or an interview or something like that. You just kind of like snip that out.
You're
We
hired,
work
Travis.
hard, we
You're going to
play
go with
hard.
me to
Right.
every interview I go on.
Right. I was gonna say, I actually had just like literally the complete opposite, right? So as I mentioned, I just recently escaped my last company in regards to the burnout situation that I was in. And I started doing some consulting work, which I absolutely love. I don't know why I haven't done this sooner. But I actually was at a big corporate, company, or not company, industry event last week up in Canada. And I ran into a whole bunch of my former employees, and team members, and then, colleagues and things like that. And I saw a gentleman that I hired, and he eventually ended up taking over for my role. And I was happy to see him on a personal level. But of course, on a business level, you have the little sadistic side of you. There's just like this evil little guy, like, oh yeah, how's he doing? He's burnt out, isn't he? This and that. And I gotta tell you, he looked rough, like exactly what Travis just described. I saw this guy, and again, as a human being, like, love the guy. Business, I'm just like, man, I told you so, but good luck to you. I told you not to take the job. There's a reason why I left. And I'm like, how you doing? First thing out of his mouth, man, I'm working like 90-hour weeks and blah. And I'm just like, I don't feel sorry for you. I warned you. Like, I mean, I was dumb, but I tried to do the right thing, but you didn't want to listen to me. And I'm like, well, that sucks. I'm happy as hell right now. I love my job. Like, this is great. Like,
Work-life balance, man. It's a real thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
so I got a funny story you might appreciate. It paints me a little bit as an asshole, but I thought it was really funny. So when I was in Coast Guard. So I was
sometimes
in Coast
that's all
Guard.
it takes.
All right. So I was in Coast Guard medic school, and I'd already been doing some like pre paramedic work before I went in, and so most of the other guys, there was like 30 other people, and there was a dude who he was kind of an asshole. He had already had his EMT license, apparently, his claim to fame, and so what he would do is he would just study for like 14 hours a day, like 12 to 14 hours, and I had plenty of time, and I learned how I studied. And so I would do almost no studying whatsoever, because I knew what was the most efficient way. And so he was getting like near the bottom. He was near the bottom of the class, and I was always number one. And he would come to me, and he was kind of a dick at times. And he's like, how are you doing so good, Travis? And I was like, well, how many hours did you study? And he's like, 12. I'm like, you would have gotten 14 hours of studying, then you would have passed. So I just kept pushing him and pushing him. He'd be like, I did 14 and I still got like a C+. I'm like, ooh, but if you did 15, could you imagine? And I just kept like bumping that number, and I just ran him ragged through the whole school as I was getting number one. And at one point, the instructors actually talked to me. They're like, Travis, you are really pissing us off. We tell everyone to study hard and they'll do well. You do no studying and you play video games all day, and you're number one. You are killing us right now.
You're messing up the curve, man. You're
messing the curve up. But that guy just kept going, man. He started at like 8 hours of studying every day, including the weekends, and he just kept ratcheting it up. I was like, oh man, I guess one more hour would probably get it good. And it's just like, his entire life for 6 months was studying. And, obviously, like you said, once you hit a certain level, it's just burnout city. You're not you're actually making negative progress.
Yeah.
And he was just like plummeting.
Law of diminishing returns, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's actually, you get like the negative, right? It's not even diminishing. It's like you lose everything once you hit a certain amount. And I was just watching
dumber, and you're crossing the A chromosome and I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I just social engineered him into the ground, and it was the funniest thing to me because he was a jerk. I'm like, yeah, I'm Mr. Big Shot.
So my mom, when studying for finals in chiropractic school, had a practice where she would stop studying at a minimum like 24 hours before the exam. So she'd get a good night's sleep, and she'd come in and all her classmates like, oh, I'm so tired this morning. She like, why? I'm like, I was up all night studying. And she'd like, oh, no, I wasn't. Because like burnout, it's real. Like at some point, diminishing returns.
Mm-hmm. And it's stress. Stress is a huge thing. Yeah. Like if you're stressed before an exam or some sort of event, like the chances of you pulling things off is pretty much zero. And what I would do for like the tests for A and P, because they were really hard, is I did like, there's biohacking. So if anyone's interested here, because of how your body
Microdosing.
works. What's that?
No.
Oh.
I said microdosing.
No,
Tell me more.
so you're why you guys have that, like when you have a sense of smell, you get that nostalgic feeling. Your olfactory senses, which is your nose, but like the part of your brain that does nose processing is like right here, and right behind it is your hippocampus, which is like your memory core, so to speak. So that's why smells will like bring back memories. So what I would do is when I was studying, I'd have a like lavender candle. I would study and sniff the candle every once in a while, just to kind of like keep that tie the two together. And then when I would take the exams, I would bring a candle in, not lit, and just like be sniffing it. And people were like, you're a
Candle
freaking
guy.
weirdo. And I was like, oh, I forgot what this name is. Hold on 1 second. Oh yeah, that's right. That's the brachial nerve. Okay, we got it. And they're like, what the fuck is going on?
This guy's a creeper. He's sniffing
There's a creeper.
candles.
He's sniffing the candle.
Yeah,
But every
right.
time he sniffs the candle, he gets the right answer. So we're kind of lost on this. Is the
Hey,
candle
I
have
need a
secret?
candle too.
Yeah, right.
And so
Exactly.
other people would actually like, it's like when Google, when they have they have like the ping pong tables, they're like, oh, ping pong table means good. So they like, can I sniff your candle? I'm like, I mean, you can. It's not going to do
gonna work for
anything.
you.
But I mean, if you want to, and they'd sniff the candle, and they're like, I still don't get it. I'm like, it's a ninja secret. I can't tell you. It was just biohacking. Yeah.
I studied for maybe one test in my life. But yeah, my high school career was littered with like tests that I would go in and just like destroy. Never did a lick of homework, but
Yep.
all my classmates are like, I hate you. You never study. And never
I
realized I'm like,
almost failed high school. Never did any homework. Aced every test. In fact, as far back as like middle school, I can't remember if it was 6th or 7th grade, but it was like a natural science course. Like the first week, I read the entire book cover to cover, never opened it again, never did any homework, never did any quizzes, barely showed up. But I aced every test to the point where I would try and finish the test as quickly as possible and still get 100. And everybody fucking hated me for it because I would be finished in like 3 minutes with 100 and just screw up everybody else because blew the curve.
Brian, I'm sorry to say, those were participation trophies. You actually failed
Yes.
all those tests.
Yes.
Ugh.
Right.
You don't have an actual high school diploma, man.
yeah,
There's dozen of us.
no, seriously though, like
It's true.
I'm right there with you, Brian. Although I went to class more often, so the teachers would like be like, "Don't be like Budish." Like,
Oh
but he
my
passed his
God.
test. Like, yeah, but don't be like him because I'll fail you.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I had a really cool Spanish teacher in high school. Like I'd been doing Spanish since in the 6th grade, which was weird because I went to a very small town. And then in high school, there was an exchange student. I can't remember where he was from. I think it was Chile. And his name was Max. We would just hang out in the back and just talk Spanish. And I would do like no homework. I didn't even barely do the test. And the teacher would come over and she'd like, look, you're not doing any homework, but you're back here speaking Spanish. So, I mean, I'm giving you a passing grade. So
Keep doing that. It's
I was gonna
You're
say, how are you
doing
gonna get
exactly what I
in
want you to
trouble?
do.
Exactly.
So what am I supposed to do? Like, good job, I guess.
You're practicando, like you're like.
At that point, they're like, "Would you like to teach tomorrow?" The smart teacher would have asked you if you wanted to teach.
No quiero.
No seas como Budish. Oh, I love you, Chris. You know that, buddy.
Aw.
Oh, I don't know. I can't. My finger. I'm like, what do you do?
You need to spend more time.
Oh,
with
your
teenagers.
fingers could do that.
I'm like,
Well, trust me.
Oh,
Ooh, getting spicy in here. Turn on the
Oh,
turn on the
man.
mature mark.
no, I love the comment about you not going to class and everything like that. I'm like, 'cause that literally just reminds me of your brothers. Growing up with them was hilarious. Because I was like, I just always wanted to get out of class because I hated high school. It's just boring. I'm like, just same thing. Like, I was like, just give me the test. I'll either copy off somebody's homework or figure it out how to pass it myself.
That's a lot
But
of
I
work,
literally,
Santi.
it was a lot of work.
Copying
but, you know,
homework.
yeah, you know, but I was like, I had to average it out. See, I was never the huge risk taker that I wanted to put 25% of my grade on actually showing up and getting it right. So I wanted to take that even keel and get straight C's, you know, and it worked. 2.0, baby, all the way.
I totally had a teacher actually say to me, like, couldn't you have copied somebody's?
Seriously?
Yeah, because I
See,
never
I would
turned
help other
anything in.
people with their homework and not do my own.
Right.
Oh my
Same.
god,
Same.
that's great.
Yeah, Brian and I are in many ways the same person. This is
Yeah,
one
they
of
actually
them.
have there's a saying, because when I was over at OIT and OHSU, which is our local like medical hospital for doctors, nurses, and paramedics, they had a saying. It was like, do you know what they call a medical school graduate who has a C- average?
Doctor.
The doctor.
Doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, that was like, when they said that, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I've had a lot of doctors, like, what were their grades? Like, something. Passing. They passed.
Hey,
Hell yeah, brother.
there's one of them. There's one of them. Passing out those tardy slips and not showing up to class.
Yeah, see,
My
I have
mother-
an excuse in high school. I missed over half of both junior and senior year, but I was taking care of my sister.
Yes, you
true.
were, and she's a
So-
lovely person.
Yep.
Yes.
And like I give you full credit for that. Maybe not
Yeah.
full credit, but like a lot of credit.
Like C
Anyway.
plus credit, you know.
Yeah,
My-
C plus.
percent.
You can call me
minus,
doctor.
Pass.
Dr. Vukic
Doctor
said no one ever. You know, you're like,
Professor Vukic.
there you go. That's got a better
Right.
rhyme
Give
to
the
it.
respect. Give the respect.
Yeah.
My mother would have never tolerated me like not going to class. So I perfected the art of like the hall pass.
Oh, there you go.
I would like, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom at like 5 minutes in, and then I would come back with 5 minutes left in class, and they'd look at me and they'd be like, and that was it, because like I didn't care. I wasn't tardy.
Here's something that's fun to do. This is sort of social engineering, but it's also has to do with like our topic of like how to like, you know, sabotage. Have you guys heard of circular logic for referential for people? Where like
For people?
Yeah,
I've heard
so-
of Excel, but like,
so here's the example. So Santiago, you're my project manager. You're like one of my managers. Let's say that Brian's one of my other managers. I go to Brian's like, Brian, I can't help you. I'm helping Santiago. I go to you, Santiago, I can't help you because I'm helping Brian. And both of you cross cancel, and then I just disappear and do whatever I want, and you both think that I'm on the other team. So as long as you don't actually communicate, it'll work. But talk
Only
to each
with
other.
I was gonna say
That's
but I'm
well.
not-
Mom
but-
said yes.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
It's just an
combating
extension
in
of
some
that.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can complicate it. So Brian thinks I'm with Santiago. Santiago thinks I'm with Chris, and Chris thinks I'm with Brian, and then you just kind of keep expanding the circle, so it becomes this giant loop.
If you do at least 3 or more, I think that works. Because see,
I'm
remember,
all
I'm the crazy.
about-
I can
I'm the
assure
crazy-
you it does.
You got to
no,
be
right,
all
exactly.
about plausible
like,
deniability.
I'll
runs
show
the
up
world.
at your office. You know what I mean? Like, remember, I'll just show up and be like, what's going on here? Like, I'll sit there until you give me an answer, right? Like, I'm that
Yeah.
annoying. So,
Now,
you got 3 of them,
I
I
haven't
might run
busted
across.
once where like all 3 of them came together, and I was like, "Oh shit, it's the
That's
game."
what I'm saying.
kicks off.
That's next level right there, Travis.
Yeah, they're all like together and looking at me. I'm like, "Oh man, all right."
See
busted."
what had happened was, you know.
Yeah, it's a funny story.
Oh, there's actually a 4th person. Oh yeah, I'm with Jesse. Actually, I'm so sorry, I forgot to mention that.
It's a
She's not
secret
in the room right
project.
now.
I couldn't tell you about it. You know, you're just like, he told me not to
Notice in
tell
all
you
these
guys.
scenarios, he's still the pivot man. So
Yeah, right.
One of the common recent
So
ones
the thing that
I've-
I'll do. No, hold on.
one of the common recent ones I've fallen on to is if I bring something up, is, oh yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Oh yeah,
Oh,
I've been
there you
meaning
go.
to talk to you about that. I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
oh yeah, what were you gonna
Well,
say?
where the fuck
Yeah.
have you been, motherfucker?
Travis, when you're when the third one, when all three of you get together and call you out, I'm the guy that pops in like, oh no, he's been working with me. And then you look at me like, I haven't been working with you. And I go,
You are now.
Oh, I'm on board.
I
own
you.
I'm
now.
like, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I was gonna
totally,
say
yeah.
now you owe me. You owe me, motherfucker.
Oh yeah, dude. When that happens, yeah, that's in the military. I don't know if you do it, Brian. It was 6-pack. We called it 6-pack rule. You got busted for something, and someone saved your ass. It was a 6-pack of their choice, whatever it was. That was the rule.
Y'all worked too cheap.
Eh,
Just saying.
Yeah, it's more of an
simpler
honor
times.
system.
Simpler
Yeah.
times.
Simpler
It's
times.
an honor system. Now, I did have one where this was like a major project that was going on, and I showed up like 8 hours late for like a watch thing, and because I was flying across the country when I absolutely shouldn't have, and I was like super busted, so I was like, okay, how do I make this cool? And so I went to it was like some wing and like meat shop, and I spent like $200. I was pretty poor at the time, being like an E3. I spent $200 buying like meats and all, like a huge spread, and I just brought it into the watch station. Like, hey, I'm sorry, stuff happened, but here you go. And they're like, all right, that's cool. I was like, oh, they could have busted me hard, but I basically bribed them. It worked, so project was technically, they took care of it, so just kind of bought their apology, but it works.
That's kind of like I've learned that the hard way. That lesson the hard way once is that you always take the bump on the flights coming home. You don't take the bump when you're going out to a client meeting. Because when you're the PM and you're presenting, like, oh, but they were offering $1,000 and I'm cheap, so like I love my free stuff. But as
well, you
Chris's
just
point,
you don't say
it's
that
not
you took
free.
the bump. You just be like, they
Oh, no,
bumped me. I wish they didn't, but
I did, but it didn't really. It fell flat. I was like, they probably know. They're like, oh, that son of a gun. He took the money. We know him.
or if they're on the flight, they like, we saw you take that, dude. We
Yeah,
saw you
right.
walk off the flight.
Like, can we get a volunteer for $1,000? Boom! His lights goes on. Santi's getting off the plane. Give me my money. I heard him talking. Like,
As you're like walking off the plane, you look over and you see like someone from that company there, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I got
Probably
IBS.
just
I
go
gotta
ahead and
go.
walk that back.
Just run off the plane.
IBS. Poop gotta poop.
Nobody questions you when you say.
I mean,
You gotta
exactly. Exactly. What are they gonna say? Like, oh man.
Oh, so I finally got something that Brian didn't know about, and I'm wondering if you guys too. Hey, Brian, do you have a link to that CIA manual? We talk about project, how to derail stuff. This is a gem from the
I've
past.
seen this one.
I think
You know what I'm talking about, Chris?
I mean,
The
that's my
OSS
that's
back
my
in the
project
day.
management Bible.
Yeah. Basically, it's
It's good tools
Here
to have.
is, I'm going to throw them in the comments.
What's
Here's a link
interesting
to
is
an
like
article about it, but better yet, here is a link to the actual books.
I've read this, and I've seen people do it, and I've seen some people like, okay, this is malicious, and then I've seen other people like, the maliciousness that's here is identical to just real incompetence.
it's hard. It's such a thin razor line at that level, and that's the stuff that I have
It
trouble
takes
with.
talent to pass off maliciousness as incompetence.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh my god.
like I've had
But they kind
conversations
of like
with
hit the
people
T,
that are
right?
this
They
incompetent.
kind of arc to a point where it's like, oh, it's hard to, when someone's so stupid or so malicious, you're like, I can't tell the difference anymore.
Yeah.
But the effect is still the same.
I mean,
I mean,
the
Occam's
right
razor.
thing to do is not send somebody smart to be malicious. The right thing to do is to get somebody completely stupid in there. They'll do you. The result will be better if that's your goal.
because it'll be genuine.
No, like there's no one to make
I said
sense.
something that was genuinely stupid.
Yeah,
What could possibly go wrong?
but to Chris's point, right? They won't
Yes.
know that they're just literally like Just
Well, because
Well,
a smart
here's
person
the
is
That
gonna.
is
situation.
like
I'm a
social
project manager,
engineering.
and you are too, Santiago. And you're like, hey, Travis, we need one of your best guys. And I send you my biggest moron. I'm like, this is my ace. And there's part of you who's like, I think that was a fuck you. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he's
yeah.
telling me something. It's like, or
Yeah.
his team is incompetent, but I think this was a professional fu.
Yeah.
Right. But like, if you are an idiot and you find like there's another guy that works for you that is equally idiotic, you're like, this is my best guy because that's what you think. Like,
Mhm.
Santiago's gonna be like, I can't.
I've been there. It was at a company where I was like, holy fuck, I'm surrounded by idiots. Like everyone
Yes.
is dumb as shit. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it and I have my apprentices that I'm chatting with. I'm like, you're gonna have a moment. They're like, oh, imposter syndrome's a real thing, but you're gonna have a moment where you're gonna talk to someone and they're gonna be like, Bino, like server. You're like, Jesus Christ, is this real?
Yeah, all it takes is one idiot to snap you right out of that imposter
Oh,
syndrome, because
yep.
you're gonna be like,
Gone.
"Wow, they are legitimately stupid."
But then
Maybe
they say
I'm not
something
that bad
like,
at this, and that keeps you
guess I'm
going for another
okay,
week
yeah.
or two.
I was gonna say that's until the next paycheck. I'm good. You're
Yeah.
like,
So,
you're
there's
like,
a bit in
We'll
the
live to see
office
another
like
day.
addresses
Uh-huh.
that, where it's the dumbest guy in the show, but then he rattles off this wisdom. Why use many word when few word do?
That's one of the 48 laws of power.
Oh my gosh!
It's,
No, I
yeah, I
literally
think we talked about that book.
I
Uh-huh.
just
That's
I
another brilliant book. I haven't read the whole thing, but I saw like the highlights, and it's a good tool to have in your back pocket.
I think that's a good way to look at it, Jesse, because I've had a couple of people recommend it to me because I'm a bull in a china shop. They're like, you need to read this because you pissed off the wrong people. It's like, that was the point, dude. I am aware of the rules. I broke them on purpose.
Yes.
And
I
sometimes
literally-
that's a
I
good
think-
thing, and sometimes that's the right
Yeah.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
literally,
I've
they
had
told me
people be like, oh, Travis, it seems like you gave him professional fuck you. It's like, yep, that's exactly what I did. I am very aware what I'm doing.
I literally I think it was the first couple weeks at the company I was working at before. They literally said, "You're like, well, we're a slow-moving company. You're a bull in a china shop." They literally freaking said that to me, word for word. And then they tell me to read, what's that? Was that How to Win Friends and Influence People
Influence
by
People,
Dale
yeah.
Carnegie. And I'm just like, why the fuck do I need to learn this? I'm here to run some projects. Like, you guys are lazy and dumb and this and that. Like, literally, you got the idiot savant, like to Chris's point, where you're like, me worky on project thingies. This guy is just like, is he really dumb or is he just really trying to sabotage things? Again, I had to work with this guy for, oh my god, nearly 9 years of my life, and I was just like, he reported to me for an entire 2 months, and literally after those 2 months, it was just like, yeah,
I'm done
if
with
you
this
don't get,
guy.
if you don't get
I
this
don't think
guy,
he's faking.
I'm like,
Yeah.
he's really fucking dumb. I can't do this anymore.
Because I think that's the worst part, man. I always feel bad for project managers because it's like, especially if I'm on a team, we're like, oh, we're assembling a team, and I'm like, oh, this poor son of a bitch has no idea what's coming. Because you show up, you're like, all right, guys, yeah, we're gonna kick some ass and take names. And like, with this team, this is D squad, baby. We ain't
Yeah.
doing shit.
It's like in a world war where you're pulling up the farmers to fucking go off to die on the front line.
Yeah.
Like they're like, they got the guns, they're looking down the barrel. You're like, oh man, we're not.
Yeah. How does this work?
We're gonna take that hill. Like, we're gonna try. Success. Ooh, that's gonna be a stretch.
Not only did the project not get completed,
Yeah.
Right.
half of them died, half of them got hepatitis. We're not sure how that happened.
That's also like a weird thing with project management that I've noticed. Like, coming from the military, like the military owns you like through and through, and if you make a mistake, they will do everything they can to punish you and boot your ass out. But in the civilian world, I've I've found that there is rarely a bottom of the barrel that people won't hit of if you're mean, you'll get fired. But if you're an absolute knuckle dragging moron, they'll be like, "Oh, he tried." It's like, "Well, he downed like 5 systems and killed 3 people, but it was an accident." I'm like, okay, it's your business, I guess. It's, fines and death, but you do you, boo, I guess.
I'd rather have the competent asshole.
Yeah.
And I
You'd
don't
rather have an
understand.
incompetent asshole? What,
No,
that's like
the competent asshole, not
Yeah.
the
okay.
incompetent.
It's like,
No, I mean,
wow, you're
rules for life.
Yeah.
Better to have a competent asshole.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
true that.
It's
Full
excellent
stop.
to have a competent asshole.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
Here's my pushback to that, because I have here in Oregon, or at least in Portland, we have 2 options really for internet. You have CenturyLink, which are very stupid people, but very nice, and they're actually trying to help you, but they can't. And then you have Comcast, who's the fucking devil, but they're good, but they're gonna actively try to screw you. So it's like,
It's Comcastic.
Yeah, 100G, right, or 100 whatever the fuck. You're like, dude, what the fuck is 100 Gs, man? There's all the Gs are a bunch of commercialized
10G
bullshit.
service, like-
It doesn't even exist.
No.
Like, get the hell out of here with your Gs.
Yeah.
There's a machine-to-machine network and a regular regular cellular network. That's it. Like, that's f off with your Gs, man. Like, that's the most
That's always the
ridiculous
hard thing.
bullshit ever.
Hey.
Like,
When you define G as pieces of paper that they send you, it's 100G.
Yeah.
Literally,
the
it's
hell.
like, what the fuck?
So
So people
hey,
fall
Santiago,
for that
so I'm
shit.
curious,
That's what drives me nuts. Like,
You as
Sorry.
a project manager, I'd be curious on your take. So you have a team of 5 people. What would your ideal mix be between the two of like incompetent but nice people or assholes that are pros? Like if you had to stack the team, one or the other.
I definitely, I need one asshole for sure. Like
Okay.
I
They
think,
got to pick them all. It's
No,
all
yeah, no,
assholes
and the
or all
rest-
nice people.
Oh,
Everybody
no.
needs at least one asshole.
Yeah, true, exactly.
Ideally.
No, ideally, if you told me I could pick
You
the
need
perfect
one
team,
pipe swinger.
yes, and I take the rest as nice people. That's it.
Okay.
one in
Yeah.
1 in 4.
See,
Like-
What
I don't
about
want to be on
stacks?
that
So
team.
you
That
can't
one
split.
guy
It's only one
Fucking
type together.
hauling
Hey,
the
all or-
whole
all or-
team
all or
across the
nothing.
finish line.
I mean, if
The
you
whole
literally, can you
goddamn
imagine?
team
on
on
the
his
finish
Can you
line.
shoulders.
imagine?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're talking. If you're taking, you're
And that's
taking
why
all,
he's an asshole.
You're taking all assholes. The mission's gonna fucking implode. Okay, like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
gonna
'cause
all
they're all
just
gonna-
go at each other.
Yeah.
The
But if you
project's
Like
take
hell.
all
probably not
morons,
get
the mission could also very likely will implode
No,
too.
because you know what? You tell them, step aside, you fucking morons. I'm doing this myself, and then I just finish
Yeah, but then
the
you have to do it.
project.
Why you even have a
I don't-
team then?
Well,
Yeah.
he just told me I had to pick, so that's my choice. I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
Oh, wow.
No,
my
I'm
choice.
taking.
I've been on both
I'm not
sides.
saying I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm proud of it. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's my choice.
I'm
and
taking-
I'm going with it. Like,
My first choice is 4 assholes and 1 incompetent boob, so they can shit on him.
you just want to watch the show.
The
dude.
whipping
Like,
boy.
No, they're gonna get stuff done, and they've got a whipping boy.
Yeah, just
Oh
fucking
my
beat this one guy
Yeah.
down.
Right? Like, you can't make
Your
an omelet
professional
without
job
breaking
is
some
a
eggs.
punching bag.
You're like, get the work done, you son of a bitch. You're coming in on Sundays.
Right. The 4 competent
Everybody
guys
meets,
are
and the
coming up
person's in the
with
center getting
horrible
back.
things for him to do.
Yeah, they're running this fucking bukkake session on this one course ball.
Oh, shit.
Everyone's got a role to play.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're all
Chris,
valuable
I respect
team
your
members.
decision. I respect your decision, but that's fucking dark, man.
Like I said, I won't advocate for myself, but when it comes to supporting my team, I'm an evil, evil man.
Yeah, you'll take a load or 2, that's for sure.
No, I'm not the poor sap, but I will definitely find one.
Yeah, right.
God, you drop in on those meetings. It's like, oh, what is it? It's just anger day, man. We're just fucking railing
Yeah,
at
Yeah.
this
just
guy.
fucking beating some guy.
I mean, at that point, your job as
Meet
project
Gary.
manager, yes, Your job as project
We're
manager
just wailing on Gary today.
is just to make sure that Gary comes back to work every day.
Oh man.
That's all you got to do.
Oh,
my
Jesus.
Oh man! So 59 minutes of beating his ass. The last minute, we're sorry, Gary. We're really sorry. Are you okay, buddy?
Please
Let's
come
work
back
this out.
tomorrow because we're gonna have rage tomorrow too.
No.
Meeting adjourned. Gary will be
Like-
back. Don't worry. We'll make sure of it.
Remember, it's like
What the
four.
fuck?
It's
He's
four
too dumb
really
to get another
competent
job.
assholes. So like,
Oh.
it's 15 minutes of beating down
Oh.
on Gary worse than he's ever been beat down on, and then it's 45 minutes of you convincing Gary that he should come back tomorrow.
I
For
think that's
another
called
15
Stockholm
minutes.
syndrome, man.
Oh, come on. It's not like Gary has other options.
Yeah. What
You think
other
there's-
teams
how many
gonna take
teams
him?
out there you think need a Gary?
Well, they need a punching bag too, so he just jumps between teams as a punching bag. Just takes his
Ah.
rounds for the morning beating, and then it's the afternoon go. You know, he could
I
do
mean,
like in phases.
On the plus side, from
Maybe
a
he gets the
work-life
last
balance,
laugh.
you know what? From a work-life
Yeah.
balance standpoint, that guy doesn't have to work that hard.
No?
Well,
He
I mean,
just has
depending
to
on how.
no, he just has to show up and appear to be contrite.
Yeah. Stitch up his butthole at the end of the day and go home.
Like when the rock stars are like, "Yeah, I took it to Gary today," and then they work a 16-hour day. Gary's home with his wife and theirs having a three-way.
How about that? That might be a little stretch.
I can say from being a paramedic of 15 years, that shit haunts them. They don't exactly go home and like, it's great, honey. It's usually, I'm going to take it out on the kids or
Yeah,
some crazy
yeah.
shit like that.
Tuna casserole. Like,
Yeah, the Bill Burr bit. Like, road rage.
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Now,
Well,
now I'm on edge.
we've
If I ever
resorted
work
to
with
the
Chris and there's
beating
five-
women portion of today's
No,
program.
but seriously,
Yeah,
if-
we usually don't even get to that segment.
wait, are we talking about vendor management again?
Yes, we should.
Yeah, releasing that anger around the people around you
Mhm.
without any filters at all.
Yeah, do not take your stuff home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
PSA.
yeah.
It doesn't work
If
out
you
well.
take your stuff home, Travis is coming for you.
Yes.
I will find you.
He'll have Santi's help.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah.
With that face,
Weird
you
that I
look like
bought this like camera just so I could do weird shit like that. Does that make me a weirdo?
A little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. I accept.
No.
with
it's the one
with
in the public bathroom you have that makes you a weirdo.
You think this shit's free, Brian? You think it pays for itself? That's
You-
how it
no.
does, baby.
Your site is doing very well.
Hey, everybody's got to have a side hustle.
Yeah.
Travis's OnlyFans. It's fine.
Front of the
Yep.
bathroom does have a warning sign. It's like very tiny and microscopic, but it's technically legally there.
Yes.
All right, so we've delved into territory that's only funny when you think about it for 3 seconds, but once you think about it longer than that, not so
It's
funny.
terrible.
It's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's stick with the 3-second funny. To project management, yo,
I'm glad we're always good at staying on topic. Like, we stick the landing every time.
all right.
Oh, always.
So let's
we're
close this out.
professionals.
Let's close this out. Santi, give us your best piece of advice as a project manager. And I don't want to hear it's all about the team. I want to give us brass tacks, give us something dirty and awful that nobody wants to hear, but it's true anyway.
Nobody wants to hear. It's true anyway. So let's see. I think it really the big secret of project management is really, regardless of what deadline someone gives you, to complete a task or whatever it may be, it's always bullshit, because anyone that knows anything about project management, they're going to have padding throughout their schedule no matter what. So even in the project schedule that I provide to my clients, even on the project schedule that I'm going to write up an MS project and we're going to run through on these meetings, we're going to look at this, and this is, it's just, literally, and just to kind of tie up all this conversation from today, it really encompasses like that, the BS or the fudge factor on how much like buffer you put into each task is by how fucking incompetent that person completing the task is. And I sincerely mean that, and I say that very bluntly and strongly, because if you are literally that dumb, I'm going to make sure I'm going to buffer extra time to make sure that if I have to step in and save your ass and work on the project myself, I'm going to figure that out and I'm going to fix it. But if someone is more competent or more capable, I'm going to make sure to give them a tighter timeline. Regardless, I'll still have a little bit of a fudge factor in there. So moral of the story is, regardless of what you see as a schedule, there's always time, dipped in there or delved in there to really kind of save the day. So I think that anytime you see a project manager freaking out and be like, "Oh my God, the project's gonna be late," and then you fucking liar. You're a liar. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you're full of shit. Like, you know what I mean?
He's
like,
got time budgeted.
Like,
he just doesn't want to spend it on you.
Exactly. Because you know what? The triple constraints, right? Time, scope, and budget. And they want to come in and deliver the project at the end of it and say, "Look at me, I want my fancy award," and like, I saved you money. I say we were within the scope that was required and we delivered it under time. Of course, that's how else is a project manager rated as far as their skill set, right?
So if what you're saying is if somebody delivers it fast, cheap, and good, they lied at the outset.
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah.
Fast, cheap,
you
good.
Have,
pick two.
You have to lie. I mean, it's like a good partner, right? You got to do it fast, cheap, and good.
You said something that reminded me of a famous quote from I think it was one of the European finance leaders during the great financial crisis of like 2008 or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were debating whether or not all these things, and a lot of news conferences, and one of the topic at hand was Greece, the country of Greece. What were they going to do with their budgetary finance? And they kept asking the finance minister, what's going to happen? And one of the topics that wasn't on the table was, are they going to get a haircut of all their depositors? And one day, boom, Greece took a haircut of all their depositors. And of course, all the reporters go back to the finance minister of that country and go, "Well, what's going on here? We've been asking you this for months." And just like you said, this is a quote. You can look it up. He said, "When it gets serious, you have to lie."
Yeah.
So you have to lie.
Oh Jesus.
Go Google it. Don't believe me. Google it.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Sorry, I dropped a comment in our
It's chat.
I'll share.
The other chat.
Yes.
Oh man.
Sorry, viewers, it's not fit for public consumption.
No.
But there's an old joke about Greece,
It's a
Turkey,
classic
and
joke.
Cyprus.
Well, it's a play on a classic joke.
Oh,
Sorry.
Man.
No, you're right. Like
you
somebody,
know,
when it comes down to brass tacks, lie.
Yeah. I mean,
wisdom.
pretty much. I mean,
That-
people don't.
Yeah, that's one of the
limits,
things.
right?
Like, I would
Exactly.
support lying on that, because you kind of have to keep everything on track. And still, if everybody knew that there was padding in there, everybody would think that they could consume that padding themselves.
Exactly, and it's going to
No,
implode the whole
that's-
freaking project.
Yeah,
Like,
so that's why you have a forward-facing project plan or a timeline, and this is my timeline. This is the one with all the padding.
The
in it.
bonus
Yeah,
timeline.
and even on
Yes.
the other side of the coin too, you got to think about it. Even when times are really bad, and yourself, even as a project manager, you're questioning things, and you're like, "Oh shit, this actually might be the first project that things are truly going to go off the rails, and it's going to go to shit." You still can't show it. because that's the thing. Like, regardless of all the joking aside, everything like that, they're looking to you as the leader of this endeavor, right? And if you are the one joining in, in the meetings, you're like, oh, you're right, this is fucked, dude. We're gonna crash
You're gonna
this
have
thing.
to pull, you're gonna have to pull it out of the fire. You're gonna burn your hands, but maybe you can keep your eyebrows.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. But so that's
Eyebrows
why what I've learned. Yeah. And that's what I've learned early on. I'm just like, I saw so much crazy stuff happening in my early part of my career, as far as like being too trustworthy and giving people too much information, that no matter how friendly I am, how communicative I am, I've learned over the years that become more like Chris, right? We all want to be like Chris. # be like Chris. That we got to be more sadistic. Exactly. Thank you. We got to be more like, anal retentive, and more about, putting people in the position to make sure they get their fucking work done. Right. So exactly. Right. But that's the thing, and you accomplish that by just giving up on the joys of everybody wants this to work, and this is all a happy family and all this shit. Because you might have people like Travis on the other side sending you their freaking duds just to say fuck you across the organization. You son of a bitch. Yeah.
I'm sending you my best and brightest. Best and brightest.
Yeah, I have a feeling. Hey, I need an update on your deliverables. Yeah, here's a picture of my junk. Deliver these.
Yeah, deliver that.
Mail call.
Yeah,
Deliver these nuts.
mail call, motherfucker.
Oh my god. Good stuff.
I had a phrase that I picked up in paramedic school that was really good, and I brought that into my the IT in general, like civil life, which is they said an emergency on your behalf doesn't constitute an emergency on my behalf. Because if you go into a scene, they're freaking out, and it's like, if you freak out, the game's over. Like, everyone's losing their shit. You got to be the one to like cool, calm, collected as much as you can. Otherwise, you're not going to help. And then the other side is like, if you allow the stressors of a shitty project manager, shitty teammates, shitty business, like you're just going to stress out, and the likeliness of, I mean, if the project fails, like if you're a project manager, obviously that's bad because that's literally what you're supposed to do. But if you're just a member, it's like, I'm not in charge. Like, run this shit into the ground, dog.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't get if no bonus is tied to it and nothing else. Like, I've got no control. Even if it was, it's like you can't do anything.
And a very
about
similar, a variant of that I've seen and like is a lack of planning. Lack of planning on your part does not
constitute an emergency.
Does not constitute
constitute an emergency
automatic emergency on my behalf.
Yeah.
So it may depend on how important you are and what all the other circumstances. But does it constitute an automatic emergency? No. If you're not signing my paycheck, it does not constitute an automatic emergency. So,
Brian, those SSL certificates are expiring in 1 month. You got to really look at that.
Yeah.
This is an emergency. It's critical. 1 month certs. Like, look into that now.
yeah. This would.
I've gotten pages that are like, it's a cert expiring in a month. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
Who cares?
Remind me in 29 days.
Yeah, no shit, right? Exactly. Exactly. Well, that sucks. Oh, man.
All right. Well, we're basically at 2 hours
I'm
here.
going to sum us up for today. Ready?
All right.
Here we go.
All right.
Project management steps.
Steal underpants.
Step 1. Steal underpants. Step 3.
Perfect.
Profits.
What about step 2?
If you
What do you mean?
let's
Don't worry about
review
step
this
two.
again.
That little guy.
Step 1. Steal underpants.
I think that was
Step
very
3,
clear.
profits.
Well, isn't it step 2? Wasn't step
Did I
2
stutter?
requirements gathering, and they just burnt that to the
Yeah,
ground?
I don't know why you don't get this.
Quite
Let's
possibly.
review again. Step 1, steal underpants. Step 3, profits.
Mhm.
Yes.
Depending on whose underpants you steal,
Yeah,
that
I mean, that
actually
could
might
know
be
lead
a
what?
right
valid
to
model.
profits. I
The
mean,
underpants
yes,
gnomes don't really care.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
not very
If you've
picky.
never seen the South Park
Mhm.
Underpants Gnomes bit, watch it.
That's an old school one.
I was
That's
gonna
got to
say,
be at
yeah,
least
so
20 years
good.
old.
That's out there.
It's
That
so
is out
good.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
All right.
Well, I
Well,
will
cool.
just tell you, it's been a pleasure to be on this wonderful show. I gotta say, it's way past my bedtime, but I am very glad to be here.
Oh, yeah, you better get to bed. You have a 14-hour day to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Fuck,
Yeah,
guys,
yeah,
5 a.m. is gonna come early. It's like shit. You
Yeah.
know? Like,
You got
I
an
know.
emergency coming, baby. Get ready
Well,
for
enjoy
it.
the
I'm just
trip
gonna-
you're taking with your
I'm
fridge
just-
beer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
going to visit the
Oh,
in-laws
yeah.
tomorrow. So
Oh,
wish,
nice.
wish
Well,
me
yeah, you're
luck.
gonna need all the beer.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
That's
Take all the beer
Yeah.
you need, dude. I'm doing the same in about a week.
Exactly.
Emptying out that fridge makes way more sense
I might
now.
also stop and take Buddhist advice and buy some more in bulk. You know, like,
An excellent
Don't wait
idea.
until you get up there because it does get more expensive when you get past a certain point north.
yeah,
Oh,
they,
yeah.
they
Like, start
know you're
shooting up, so.
you're screwed. We're gonna charge you double because
Yes,
there's
that's exactly
no-
what it is.
You know, pretty much. Like,
I
you
can't
don't have
remember, are
another
they
choice.
into the UP or
Well,
are
to
they
be
just
fair-
really close? I can't remember now.
30 minutes south of the UP, so not too
Okay.
bad, but
Yeah, so they're ways up there. Practically
Yeah.
Canada, but not quite.
Well, I think there's a project manager skill set in there. You know, bang for the buck. Deal with the in-laws sober or pay double.
Yeah,
If
probably
you're
pay
running
double.
low, yeah, maybe you have to pay double.
Yeah.
I'll be running some meetings. Don't worry.
I gotta run to town where I have better connectivity.
I'm sorry. I need the Wi-Fi at the local. I don't know. I gotta get out of here. Goodbye.
Yeah. At the local liquor store.
Yeah, right. Shit.
But thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah,
You're
sure.
excellent guest.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man. It was great.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. And
Thank you.
thank you, everyone that joined us. And maybe we'll see you next week. Maybe
Yep.
not. We'll see.
Talk
Depends.
soon.